Well, since I received so much love from my series talking about the biggest problems in every Dragon Ball Saga, you guys gave me an idea. Now, I'm going to talk about what I think the biggest strengths are in every Dragon Ball Saga. And just like I did last time, I'm going to start with Dragon Ball Z. Now, I think the Saiyan Saga is one of the two best sagas in Dragon Ball history and executes at a high level in many aspects. So in saying that, I also believe that there are many strengths in the Saiyan Saga as well. You have the excellent writing for Vegeta, the beautiful introduction of Raditz, and the absolute masterpiece that is the Goku and Vegeta fight. But I think the biggest strength in the Saiyan Saga is Nappa's time in the story. Now, I know for some, that answer may sound a little crazy, but let me explain. There are a couple major points I considered when choosing Nappa as the biggest strength of the Saiyan Saga. The first is that Nappa's character in early Dragon Ball Z thrives on the sharp contrast between his brutish, reckless nature and Vegeta's composed, calculating demeanor. While Vegeta embodies strategic ruthlessness, Nappa is pure, unfiltered aggression. He craves destruction and enjoys the chaos, which makes him a looming physical threat but also a liability. This dynamic serves to amplify Vegeta's authority as the audience quickly sees Vegeta's dominance not just in power, but in intellect, often reprimanding Nappa for his impatience and recklessness. Nappa's overwhelming reliance on brute force without forethought highlights Vegeta's methodical approach, reinforcing Vegeta's superiority in both skill and leadership. This time in the story was not only beneficial for Nappa, but it helped to build Vegeta's character without him actually having to do anything. But Nappa excelled as the main antagonist in early Dragon Ball Z despite the looming presence of a stronger figure in Vegeta. By effortlessly defeating Tien, Chaozu, and even Piccolo, Nappa set a grim tone, making it clear that no one stood a chance against him, not Krillin, and not Gohan, who at a certain point were the only Z fighters left. This relentless onslaught created a sense of helplessness that kept the tension high as the remaining fighters were only barely surviving. Nappa's ability to hold the narrative weight and carry the role of the main antagonist despite Vegeta's eventual reveal as a greater threat solidified him as a force to be reckoned with and an unforgettable part of Dragon Ball Z's intense build-up. But to me, the most important aspect is that Nappa's presence in Dragon Ball Z deepened the growing understanding of what we thought it meant to be a Saiyan, expanding on the brutal and warrior-driven culture introduced by Raditz. While Raditz first revealed the pride and ruthlessness of the Saiyan race, Nappa took it a step further, embodying their savage nature, thirst for combat, and disdain for weakness. This stood in stark contrast to Goku, who, despite being a Saiyan by birth, had adopted Earth's values of compassion, friendship, and self-improvement. Nappa's arrival furthered the tension between Goku's life choices and his Saiyan heritage, adding layers to the storyline as Goku faced not just a physical threat, but the ideological challenge of what it truly meant to be a Saiyan. Now, the Frieza saga is the best saga in all of Dragon Ball. All of it. There are countless memorable moments, and the writing for Dragon Ball during this period was at its best. And I think the biggest strength of this saga was the multiple storylines. Part of the reason why the Frieza saga is so good is because of how dynamic it is. From the time Gohan and Krillin arrive on Namek up until the Z Fighters meeting Frieza is what I call the chaos. It masterfully juggles multiple storylines, all building tension and excitement for this moment here. It's hard to even choose which storyline was the main one for this section. While Goku's quest to become stronger wasn't seen the most, without it, the entire saga goes much differently. Then you have the search for the Dragon Balls, which has three perspectives: Vegeta's, Gohan and Krillin, and Frieza's. Vegeta, driven by his ambition to surpass Frieza and claim ultimate power, engages in a tactical and ruthless hunt for the Dragon Balls. Gohan and Krillin, on the other hand, are underdogs. They're trying to survive and protect themselves while seeking the Dragon Balls to resurrect the Z Fighters. Meanwhile, Frieza's pursuit is fueled by his desire for immortality, making him the most terrifying force in the race. Each decision built suspense. The looming threat of Frieza's overwhelming power hanging over everyone made every moment feel critical in the larger battle for the Dragon Balls. There's also the approaching extinction of the Namekian race, the Ginyu Force. It was so much. And again, every character's decisions had consequences on the story. Each storyline intertwined seamlessly. The saga balances intense action, emotional stakes, and unexpected alliances, all while maintaining the constant dread of Frieza's unmatched power. This multi-layered storytelling kept viewers hooked, as every subplot felt vital to the climactic showdown, making the final fight against Frieza the pinnacle of tension and narrative depth in the series. Okay, so here's the thing. I like the Cell saga, but it always loses me a little bit with the whole Cell revival moment. Like, we just went through all this intense buildup, insane fights, Goku's heartfelt sacrifice, and then boom, Cell pulls a surprise "I'm back" card out of nowhere. Like, I get it. Dragon Ball loves its dramatic comebacks, but this one just felt like it stretched the tension out a little too far. Gohan finally has his moment, unleashing his full potential, and then Cell's like, nah, I'm not done yet. And for me, that undercuts that awesome payoff and drags the whole thing out. It's like getting to the perfect ending of a movie, and then the villain stands back up just to throw another punch. But that's not me saying that the Cell saga wasn't really fun at times. That's not me saying that the entirety of this saga wasn't well written, because I believe that the Cell saga's biggest strength is that it closes so many important character arcs really well. Which is why I've previously said, I do think Dragon Ball Z should have ended earlier than this, but if it ended after Goku's sacrifice, I would have loved it. If you were to make a list of the 5 most important characters by the end of the Cell saga, what would it look like? Let me know in the comments. For me, it's Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and future Trunks. We saw Gohan go from a timid and scared little boy with boundless potential to a confident fighter who stepped out of his father's shadow and saved the world by realizing his potential. For almost a decade, fans watched Goku grow from a child to a grown man. Goku went through countless battles in the pursuit of either protecting his friends or pushing himself. Many of his most important enemies ended up becoming allies because of how strong his personality was, and at the end of his life, he chose to save his friends one last time because he knew that another version of him would be there in his place. Now Vegeta's in a slightly different situation. In the Cell saga, we begin to see Vegeta's maturation in his care for others. For the present version of the character, Trunks was too young and it seemed like Vegeta was an absent father. But Vegeta argued with future Trunks, he trained with future Trunks, and he also fought against future Trunks. And Vegeta acknowledging his son against semi-perfect Cell was the first time Vegeta publicly showed pride in any one person outside of himself. However, Vegeta also lost future Trunks, and that was the first time Vegeta threw caution to the wind because of another person he loved. That's growth, and I want you guys to stay with me because this next take is one I haven't heard before. Throughout the Cell saga, Vegeta gets humbled at least 3 times in combat. Once against 18, then against Cell, and against Cell again. But Vegeta's most humbling moment in the saga is one that doesn't happen in combat. After Gohan defeats Cell and Goku dies, Vegeta vows to never fight again. And I think it's one of the most underrated moments of growth in Dragon Ball. See, this is how I view it. At a certain point, and I really want to say it was after Vegeta became a Super Saiyan, Goku had become his only real motivation. Vegeta's a Saiyan, I know, they like to fight, but his driving force was Goku. He had to catch him. And even though some could see it as childish, I see it as growth. Because at this point, Vegeta doesn't want to fight and kill just for the fun of it. If Goku died against Frieza, I believe Vegeta would have kept going around the galaxy fighting and killing the way he was before ever meeting Goku. But after the Cell saga, Vegeta is okay with just training and living out the rest of his days. This wouldn't have been as memorable as the Buu saga, but it does lead to a more interesting close to his character. For Piccolo, his story closes because he sees his pupil realize his full power on top of becoming whole again. If that's not a sufficient end to his story, then I don't know what is. And then future Trunks. Future Trunks was a character introduced with a lot of confidence and assurance, but the more we saw the character, the more clear it was that he was just a child fighting a battle he couldn't win. Trunks came back to the past to change the future, and if you've watched enough Dragon Ball, then you know that actions changed in the past do not alter what's already happened in the future. That's a different timeline. Yet, Trunks did change the future. What he went through in the past made him a much stronger, knowledgeable, and more decisive character. And when he went back to his time, he saved the world. He found what he was looking for without even trying. And again, that's a great close to his character. I wish that Dragon Ball Z ended after this saga because of how effectively it closes so many stories. But there is the Buu saga. I had to talk about it. The Buu saga has many weaknesses, but I'm not gonna harp on those. The Buu saga's greatest strength is Goku's Spirit Bomb, or really just the ending. Goku's use of the Spirit Bomb to defeat Kid Buu stands as the defining moment of the Buu saga and a fitting conclusion to the original run of Dragon Ball. The Spirit Bomb itself had been a symbol of hope throughout the series, representing the combined efforts of all living beings against overwhelming evil. Ending this saga with this technique not only brought an epic finality to the battle, but also reflected the core message of the series, that the universe's greatest threats could be overcome through collective strength. In a way, this moment encapsulated everything Dragon Ball had built towards, with Goku channeling the energy of his allies and even the people he had protected to deliver the finishing blow. It was the ultimate culmination of his journey as a fighter who always believed in the power of unity. But beyond its spectacle, the Spirit Bomb's role in the finale is symbolic of how Goku operated from the very beginning of Dragon Ball. Goku never saw himself as a lone warrior, but always a part of something larger depending on his friends, family, and rivals to push him beyond his limits. Whether it was training with Krillin as a child or fusing with Vegeta in the Buu saga, Goku's reliance on teamwork and trust in others was central to his character, always. It's a testament to the idea that no victory in Dragon Ball was ever truly achieved alone, making this conclusion as thematically rich as it was action-packed. Dragon Ball Super is it's a wild ride, no doubt about it. Each saga brings its own energy, its own stakes, and a cast of unforgettable faces, new and familiar alike. From the spectacle that was Hit's time skip to the strategic and multi-dimensional chaos of the Tournament of Power, every arc carves out its own unique strengths that make it worth revisiting. So today, we're diving deep into what made each Dragon Ball Super saga shine. Whether it's the characters, epic moments, or transformations that had fans buzzing, let's break down what each saga nailed and how they helped shape the legacy of Dragon Ball Super. So first up, we have the tournament against Universe 6. This tournament was like a breath of fresh air for me. It didn't have the highest stakes in retrospect, but it did bring something new to the table, a clash with a whole other universe. We got a mix of fresh fighters, from Kaba giving us a taste of Saiyan heritage, to Hit's time-skipping moves that even Goku and Vegeta had a hard time dealing with. I've said previously that I don't think this saga is all that bad, it's just a little mundane. I don't know if it was because of the way it was animated or the pacing, but on paper, this tournament is a lot more exciting than it actually is. A giant robot who can't be hurt, a bear who's essentially invincible, an alternate Frieza? It should have been more exciting. Yet in saying that, I think this arc's biggest strength is one that revolves around excitement. Goku pulling out the Kaioken with Super Saiyan Blue against Hit was a pure fan service moment that Dragon Ball Super absolutely nailed. For years, fans wondered what it would be like to see Goku stack Kaioken on top of Super Saiyan, and the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament was a perfect setup for it. The stakes were high, but there was no world-ending crisis on the line, just a test of strength and skill between two universes. The build up to that moment was intense, with Goku pushed to his limits by Hit's time skip ability, and when he finally went Kaioken times 10, that burst of red and blue energy felt like a throwback and a breakthrough all at once. It was a moment that honored the past while pushing Goku's power to a new level, giving some fans the kind of payoff they'd been craving for decades. It seems run-of-the-mill now, but when this first happened, it was a huge deal. The Zero Mortals plane in Dragon Ball Super is arguably the series' best, and that's largely because of how it transitions the show's tone from lighthearted fun to something deeply grim and thought-provoking. Up until then, Super had played with nostalgia, humor, and familiar tournament-style battles, but this arc dragged us into a dark, devastated future where hope was on the brink of extinction. Here, the stakes weren't just about who was stronger. It was a question of survival against an unyielding force that wanted to erase all mortal life. Zamasu's twisted quest to purify the universe by removing mortals completely stripped away the usual Dragon Ball formula of training, fighting, and powering up. Instead, it brought a real weight to the decisions and actions of the characters. With a ruined Earth as their battlefield and a seemingly invincible foe, every moment felt tense, almost oppressive. This shift in tone didn't just up the drama, it layered the story with dread, which is something I think has only happened twice in Dragon Ball's history. What makes Zamasu such a compelling villain is his complex, albeit twisted, sense of justice. While most Dragon Ball antagonists are motivated by power, revenge, or domination, Zamasu's mission was fueled by a warped ideology. He genuinely believed that mortals were a plague on the universe, that their freedom of choice led only to chaos and corruption. This conviction made him not just evil, but terrifyingly principled. He wasn't after authority over others, he sought to remove their very right to exist. Zamasu's extreme view of justice makes him unsympathetic in a traditional sense, yet it does add layers to his character. We don't have to agree with him to understand the depth of his conviction, and that's what makes him such a powerful adversary. But again, I don't think Zamasu is as impactful of an antagonist without the great shift in tone that this arc brought. The Tournament of Power is arguably the best arc in the series, but it is without a doubt the most exciting. Now, I do think the writers for Dragon Ball Super were a bit ambitious on this one. Writing a story where 80 different characters are supposed to have some sort of impact is a challenge I can't even begin to fathom. And how the show dealt with that challenge was on full display up until Goku used Ultra Instinct for the first time. But after that, sheesh. This arc's biggest strength is that after a certain point, nearly every episode and every fight was exciting. As the participants started to dwindle, the stakes began to swell. The lacking animation that people criticized early Dragon Ball Super for wasn't a factor at this point. If there was a pacing problem before, I think it went away by episode 110. This pacing shift allowed for better focus on key characters, giving them room to shine without feeling rushed or overshadowed. So each episode felt meaningful, with every clash carrying real weight not just for the fighters, but for the survival of everyone they represented. By the tightening roster, the tournament transformed from a chaotic free-for-all into a series of pivotal high-stakes battles that kept the viewers on edge. I can just run them off. Goku vs Jiren, Goku vs Kale Caulifla, Goku vs Kefla, Gohan and Piccolo vs the Namekians, Universe 7 vs Annie Raza, Vegeta vs Jiren, Frieza vs Toppo, Vegeta vs Toppo, and Goku vs Jiren at the end. That's an all-star lineup, and that's all within 20 episodes. Even if you don't like Dragon Ball Super, you have to admit, that's impressive. Alright, now for the manga. The biggest strength of the Galactic Patrol arc is Moro. Now I know that probably isn't the over-the-top response you're looking for, but let me explain. Moro was a callback to a different time in the Dragon Ball franchise. No more tournaments, no more gods. He was someone that was powerful but also cunning. Moro was a villain in every sense of the word. His abilities weren't necessarily new and unique, but they did make Goku, Vegeta, and the rest of the Z fighters strategize in a way they hadn't in a very long time. This arc captivates that blend of intensity and resourcefulness that made Dragon Ball Z so captivating, reminding us of the vulnerability of even the strongest fighters when faced with a foe who plays by entirely different rules. That's all because of Moro. Now you want to hear something that might be wild? Excluding the movie retellings, the Granola arc is the worst in all of Dragon Ball Super to me. It gets worse for me as time passes, and that's mainly because I think the arc did a horrible job when it came to the antagonist, but that's for another video. I do want to give an honorable mention to the reveal of Ultra Ego, because I think it had proper build-up and also gave Vegeta a separate path for power. I'm kinda sick of him and Goku always reaching for the same forms anyway. But the biggest strength of this arc is that we finally got some history for Bardock and how it relates to Goku. I know many fans prefer the original story for Bardock, but now that isn't canon. So every piece of Bardock lore is a plus to me, and that history helped Goku figure out how to fight using all of his strengths. It's a little disappointing that it had to be against a character like Gas, but I think the concept of learning more about Bardock and Goku becoming more accepting of his Saiyan lineage is a good thing. Now the Superhero Saga is a movie retelling that I have to go over because there are some notable differences between the movie and the manga. The movie tightly focuses on Gohan and Piccolo, showcasing their battles against the newly reformed Red Ribbon Army with a direct and action-packed narrative that centers around their growth. In contrast, the manga version takes a broader approach. There's the expansion of the story to incorporate more of Goku and Vegeta's ongoing training with Broly on Beerus' planet, but the key difference from the movie is how it expands on Goten and Trunks' personal story. It adds depth to their characters in a way that the movie only hints at. In the manga, we see Goten and Trunks adopting superhero personas, Saiyaman X1 and X2. It lets them step into the spotlight and explore their own identities outside of the shadows of Goku and Vegeta. This edition not only develops their dynamic as a duo, but also gives a playful slice-of-life perspective that complements the more serious moments of the main plot. Their superhero antics provide a fresh layer of character growth, showing the teenage Saiyans grappling with balancing hero duties, school life, and even girls. I know I recently made a video criticizing the two, but this expanded narrative in the manga allows readers to connect with Goten and Trunks on a more personal level, making their involvement in the final showdown feeling more impactful as they mature through these experiences. Dragon Ball GT is just one of those things it's just interesting. I will sit here and tell you all the reasons why I think Dragon Ball GT is absolutely terrible. Yet in the same breath, I can also tell you that I absolutely love Dragon Ball GT. It just has a special place in my heart. So today, I want to talk about some of the redeeming qualities in each Dragon Ball GT saga, and there's no better place to start than with the Black Star Dragon Ball Saga. The Black Star Dragon Ball Saga's return to Dragon Ball's adventurous roots feels like a breath of fresh air after all the intense, high-stakes battles in Dragon Ball Z. Instead of focusing on universe-ending threats directly, this arc takes us back to the kind of fun, exploratory spirit that marked Goku's early days, even though the overall threat was still the destruction of Earth. As Goku, Trunks, and Pan travel to new planets, they're faced with a wide range of challenges that don't always call for brute strength. This approach gives the series room to explore imaginative, episodic stories where it's not just about power levels, but also about creativity, humor, and discovery, all things that made Dragon Ball so beloved to begin with. Coming off of Dragon Ball Z and its constant power-ups and escalating battles, this saga offers a chance to slow down and reconnect with the world of Dragon Ball in a new and interesting way, to say the least. It gives characters like Goku and Pan a chance to shine through teamwork and problem solving rather than just transformations. For fans, this approach could feel like a natural continuation, providing a balanced follow-up to the explosive end of the Buu saga and showing that Dragon Ball isn't just about big battles. In that sense, the Black Star Dragon Ball Saga brings back the adventurous spirit of Goku's original journey, proving that sometimes the thrill of the unknown can be just as captivating as any fight. I'm trying to do my best to make this saga seem like it's not complete garbage. I'm trying. Though for the next one, I don't have to try too hard. While the Black Star Dragon Ball Saga brings back the thrill of an adventure storyline reminiscent of Goku's earliest escapades, the Baby Saga shifts focus to deliver something entirely different, and that's where strength truly lies. Here, Dragon Ball GT goes beyond exploring just new planets or encounters. It explores the Saiyan heritage in a more primal way. Super Saiyan 4 becomes a series-defining transformation, embodying a raw power that goes beyond the refined golden aura of previous Super Saiyan forms, and that, to me, is the biggest strength of this saga. Super Saiyan 4 embraces the untamed essence of the Uzaru roots while allowing for human consciousness and restraint. It's a balance that speaks to Goku's character and his journey, a transformation that doesn't just raise his power level, but also reveals layers of his heritage and identity. Super Saiyan 4 elevates the Baby Saga to something unique in the Dragon Ball franchise by delivering a transformation that feels earned and deeply significant to the storyline. Unlike other power-ups, which often arise in response to a villain's increasing power, this form resonates with the show's themes of identity and evolution. Baby's presence as a villain taps into Goku's legacy as a protector in a way few antagonists ever have, as he turns those he protected against Earth. Super Saiyan 4 then feels like a reclaiming of Goku's heritage, an answer not only to Baby's threats, but to the legacy of the Saiyan race itself. For this saga, I can also say that Baby's ability to body hop as a parasite is such a unique power, but it feels like a missed opportunity in terms of building real suspense. Imagine if, instead of it being clear who Baby was controlling, the show leaned into a bit more ambiguity. Baby could have left subtle signs that only hinted at his influence, creating moments where even the viewer is left questioning who is fully in control. Perhaps there could have been characters whose personalities or behaviors subtly shifted in ways that just felt off enough to raise suspicion, but not so obvious that it gave Baby away immediately. This approach would have built a sense of paranoia and anticipation, making each encounter with the main cast more tense as viewers wondered who Baby might be hiding inside. Had this ambiguity been woven into the story, it would have made Baby's threat feel more unsettling. Instead of just waiting for Baby's next target, audiences could have been drawn into a guessing game, wondering who is compromised and who they can trust. This technique would have added layers to each character interaction and elevated Baby's role as a manipulative villain. It's one thing for a character to be strong and dangerous, but it's another when their presence casts a shadow over the entire group, making allies question each other and heightening the stakes of each scene. By embracing this subtly, Baby's body hopping could have transformed from a useful tool into a source of psychological tension. But let's move on to the Super 17 saga. The biggest strength, and I mean the biggest strength of the Super 17 saga is that was only 7 episodes. This saga was horrible. I'd like to say that the combining of two 17s was something great, but it wasn't. It was cool to see, I guess. But the resulting character is one of the most empty shells of a character in Dragon Ball history. Let's move on. The Shadow Dragon saga in Dragon Ball GT presents what I see as the most compelling concept for an antagonist in Dragon Ball history. The notion that the series' iconic wishes, originally intended to resolve crises or fulfill dreams, could come back as twisted forces of destruction is a powerful twist. It transforms the Dragon Balls from symbols of hope and power into something ominous, almost cursed, emphasizing the idea that even seemingly pure acts have consequences. This theme resonates on a deeper level, questioning the morality and wisdom of relying on such power and turning the hero's past action into catalysts for their current challenges. It's a rare moment in the franchise where the past is directly responsible for shaping the antagonist, giving each dragon a unique, almost karmic significance. I would have loved to see the Shadow Dragons embody the personalities or traits of the wishes that created them a little more, and I think it could have added layers to their characters and connected them even more to their origins. Imagine if each dragon's behavior, appearance, or even fighting style subtly mirror the intent behind their respective wish. For instance, a dragon born from a wish made in desperation might act frantic and unstable, while one from a selfish wish could be prideful or manipulative. This approach would give each dragon a distinct personality rooted in a past event, allowing fans to recognize familiar themes or moral lessons in each encounter. This could have turned each battle into more than just a fight, adding moral weight to Goku and the others' journey to cleanse the consequences of their actions. I know Nova Shenron was different than the rest, but it was more so because he was the 4-star ball, not because of the type of wish that was made. Also, with the concept this out there, the design for Omega Shenron could have been a little more unique, something that went beyond just a more powerful version of Sin Shenron. While Sin is intimidating in his own right, Omega Shenron could have represented a truly climactic boss of all bosses, symbolizing the weight of every reckless wish made across time. Imagine a design that visually referenced Shenron while simultaneously amplifying the darkness and weight of the Shadow Dragons. The Omega Shenron I'm imagining would be the singular force that embodies the gravity and darkness of abusing the Dragon Balls. By pushing Omega Shenron's design further, the saga could have ended on an unforgettable note with an antagonist that truly felt like the embodiment of the hero's hardest earned lesson. But that's just me nitpicking there. I still do believe the biggest strength of this saga is the idea of the Shadow Dragons itself. You all know, I'm not the biggest fan of Dragon Ball GT. GT might be divisive, but it leaves a lasting impression without a doubt. So for all its flaws, GT gives us moments that spark curiosity and push the franchise's boundaries, reminding us why Dragon Ball's legacy endures. I can admit when I make a mistake. So the video that I did talking about the problems in every Dragon Ball saga, I got a lot of heat for that video and I understand why. I'm not going to go through each criticism one by one, but the main gist is that people were upset that I criticized the series for not being as fast-paced and action-packed as the series that followed it. And what I should have explained is that my critique was based on how I thought about this series when I first watched it. Because at this point in my life, I can't find any huge problems with most of that story. It's structured so differently than the series that followed it that a laid-back series based around tournaments didn't have the biggest plot holes or narrative inconsistencies. All I could call it was boring at times, which even at my age now, I still agree with. So today, I'm gonna go the biggest strengths of each Dragon Ball saga, and we're gonna do the same thing we do every time. Start from the beginning. Goku's naive nature in early Dragon Ball was this saga's most significant strength. It offers Akira Toriyama the freedom to explore unpredictable storytelling. Goku's innocent and sheltered perspective made every new experience feel fresh, allowing Toriyama to introduce wildly imaginative scenarios without needing elaborate setups or explanations. Goku's lack of understanding about the world meant that even basic concepts like the existence of cities, airplanes, or even the Dragon Balls themselves were genuine revelations for him. This gave Toriyama a unique narrative flexibility where exposition could double as humor or surprise. While viewers might laugh and think, "Are you serious, Goku?" when he struggles with something obvious, but his sheltered upbringing in the mountains makes it entirely believable. So this balance between Goku's ignorance and his growth over time made it easier for Toriyama to weave unexpected twists and humor into the story, all while maintaining a sense of wonder. But Goku's naivety also made every character introduction more dynamic as they contrasted sharply with his simple worldview. Characters like Bulma, Roshi, or Yamcha seemed larger than life not just to the audience, but especially through Goku's eyes. Each new interaction felt layered because Goku's reactions amplified the quirks of these characters, whether it was Bulma's technology, Roshi's eccentric wisdom, or Yamcha's energy as a whole. As the series progressed and the characters grew increasingly complex and bizarre, Goku's simplicity served as the perfect foil to highlight their uniqueness. His sheltered background made him a natural lens through which the audience could explore a world that was constantly pushing the boundaries of what Goku understood. Goku being so naive reinforced the adventurous spirit of Dragon Ball as a whole. And a big part of what's made Dragon Ball so popular is the tournaments. And outside of this tournament introducing much of what has made Dragon Ball great, like serious martial arts and training, the 21st World Tournament Saga in Dragon Ball stands out as a masterclass in introducing new characters. This format allowed Akira Toriyama to showcase a diverse lineup of fighters, each with unique fighting styles and personalities that added fresh energy to the story. From Krillin to the boisterous and comedic Bacterian, every contestant brought something different to the table, making each match entertaining in its own right. Even the characters who only appeared briefly left a lasting impression, as their creative techniques and humorous antics ensured that there was never a dull moment. For a story beginning to grow beyond its initial premise, this arc proved that Dragon Ball can not only sustain an ensemble cast, but thrive with one. Jackie Chun, while technically just a disguised Master Roshi, is a prime example of how this saga maintained excitement while introducing new elements. His over-the-top techniques and experience-based strategy gave the championship fight a level of intensity and unpredictability that remains engaging to this day. The final battle against Goku was thrilling, with moments of comedic brilliance and nail-biting tension seamlessly blending together. Goku's inability to recognize that Jackie Chun was his own master was both hilarious and a perfect demonstration of his endearing naivety, which added an extra layer of charm to the dynamic. The tournament not only gave the audience fresh faces to enjoy, but also proved that Toriyama could turn even established characters into something novel and exciting, showcasing that his approach to storytelling could be something that worked long term. Now, the Red Ribbon Army saga, I don't really like this one. This is one of the sagas where I just go, okay. The biggest strength of the Red Ribbon Army saga in Dragon Ball might seem a little vain, but it's undeniably satisfying. Goku gets to unleash his full strength against opponents who don't stand a chance. While tension and stakes are essential for good storytelling in most Dragon Ball sagas, there's a unique joy in watching a character like Goku, who's trained hard and proven himself against powerful foes, absolutely dominate in a way that feels earned. The Red Ribbon Army serves as the perfect punching bag for Goku's abilities, showcasing just how far his skills have come without needing to introduce another life or death rival. There's a catharsis in seeing Goku tear through entire groups of soldiers, tanks, and even mechanical monstrosities with ease, delivering an unrelenting display of power that's just plain fun to watch. And that's what the Red Ribbon Army saga ultimately embodies: fun. Sure, the saga has its moments of tension and danger, but Dragon Ball has always thrived on balancing intense battles with pure, unadulterated enjoyment, and this arc is no different. Watching Goku storm through entire armies feels like a reward not just for his character, but for the audience as well. It's a chance to revel in the sheer spectacle of Goku being Goku, naive, determined, and overwhelmingly powerful in the most entertaining way possible. I'll get right to the point on this one. The ever-growing tension was undeniably the biggest strength of the 22nd World Tournament saga. Unlike the 21st, which was lighthearted and filled with quirky fights, this saga introduced characters with genuine malice and ill intentions, immediately raising the stakes. Tien and Chaozu of the Crane School weren't just competitors, but they were also rivals with the philosophical opposition to the Turtle School's values. The contrast between Master Roshi and Shin highlighted the differences in their teachings, giving the audience a deeper understanding of what it meant to be a martial artist in the Dragon Ball world. As each round of the tournament unfolded, the tension ramped up, keeping the audience on edge about who would come out victorious. But this tension wasn't just external, it also brought out one of Goku's strongest traits: his ability to inspire change in others. Despite the Crane School's malicious intent, Goku's unwavering morality and determination eventually led Tien and Chaozu to reconsider their approach to fighting. And by the time the climactic battle between Goku and Tien concluded, hilariously and unexpectedly no less, Tien and Chaozu were no longer enemies but friends. This shift felt earned, showing that even amidst the most intense rivalry, Goku's influence could foster mutual respect. However, just as the tournament ended on a high note, the sudden and shocking death of Krillin flipped the tone entirely. The tension, which had simmered through the tournament, erupted into something far more urgent and personal as Goku, in a fit of rage, set off to find the killer. This moment marked a turning point, transitioning the series into a darker and more dangerous narrative. The introduction of Demon King Piccolo took that tension and elevated it even further. Unlike the structured environment of a tournament where rules limited the risks, Demon King Piccolo was a direct threat to Goku's life and the safety of his friends. He wasn't just another opponent, he was deeply rooted in the history of the Dragon Ball world, but more importantly, his arrival represented a fundamental shift in Dragon Ball's storytelling. From this point on, nearly every major antagonist would be actively looking to end Goku's life, moving the series away from lighthearted competition and into a realm of life or death struggles. This seamless transition was key to maintaining my investment as the story took a drastic shift in direction. The tension that began in the tournament created the perfect foundation for the stakes to grow, allowing for impactful moments like Goku's eventual growth into a young adult. By aging Goku, the series aligned his maturation with the escalating threats he would face, starting with Piccolo Jr. The 22nd World Tournament not only showcased how tension can keep a story engaging, but also demonstrated how it can pave the way for necessary evolution in both character and narrative. This tournament wasn't just a bridge to Dragon Ball's next chapter, but it was also a showcase of how to build tension and use it to set up the future of the series without diminishing its core appeal. So after beating the Demon King, where can the story go that doesn't feel like a step backwards? Well, that would be beating the Demon King's son, who was even stronger. I know Piccolo Jr. is really a reincarnation, so they're kind of the same person. It's weird, but you understand. I'd say the biggest strength of this saga is simply the final fight. I'll be honest, the entire tournament wasn't as exciting as the first two in Dragon Ball. The only matchups I go back to watch all include Goku, and that's not the case for the 21st and 22nd World Tournaments. But the reason I say that the final fight is the biggest strength of this saga is not just because of its great animation or beautiful fight choreography or even a climactic ending. I believe the final fight is the biggest strength of this saga because it offers a seamless transition into Dragon Ball Z. The fight between Goku and Piccolo made it abundantly clear to everyone that Goku was now in a league of his own. You add that to him finally winning the world tournament, getting married to Chi-Chi and his adult body, well, now you have a character that needs to be in very different situations. The type of sagas that defined early Dragon Ball would no longer fit a man with Goku's strength. This final fight was the symbolic closing of Goku's time as a human, because we all know what happens next. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if this is your first time on the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. But with that being said, this is BigTune, and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.